Thank you, Mrs. Executive Vice President, Mr. Director General, Mr. and Mrs. Director Generals, and of course, I fully agree that we already knew that the Director Generals in the European Union are important, and it's true that we are very much thrilled to be working with our partners in the EU and the European institutions to really fast-track not only the amount of investments that we have within the Moroccan energy transition system. As you know, we have to multiply the amount of annual investments by 3 in the renewable space and by 5 in the energy transition space just to cater for a business as usual program in Morocco. And in order to do so, we really have to ensure that all our partners are mobilized because, like you, we don't want to be using taxpayer money to do so. We want to be using the private sector to help us in this energy transition journey. But getting back to the important question of regional cooperation and regional integration, I'll just want to be reminded of what European Union foreign affairs ministers told me once, that with optionality comes a lot of empowerment. And I think that sentence stays with me when we have been having those important discussions around strengthening our electricity interconnection, strengthening our energy interconnection, making sure that building a common hydrogen economy between Morocco, Africa, and the European Union, because you probably know that already, Mr. Executive Vice President, but Morocco is the only country in Africa that is now interconnected with Europe, logistically, culturally, gas-wise, and electricity-wise, and bidirectionally. And that's very important, that the fact that we are able to trade bidirectionally is very important, I think, for both our sides. And of course, we are organizing a soccer World Cup in 2030 between the two sides of the Mediterranean. So that obliges us actually to work seriously on all the infrastructure that has to be green as well. There has to be a lot of environmental aspects being covered in that organization. And I also would like to extend my gratitude to the EU for organizing this great side event on the clean tech cooperation, because we also strongly believe in Morocco that, and for adults of my generation, we grew up emulating the model of the European Union that was built with the congregation of steel and cement industries. Today, with the accumulation of crises, well, climate, of course, health crisis, but also geopolitical crisis and financial and economic crisis, we think that multilateralism has to regain its credibility. And there's no more powerful message that we can bring to the table, no more powerful message than strengthening our cooperation, particularly in the clean tech space and particularly in the energy clean tech space. Because, mind you, over the years, all of us, we woke up with this energy transition challenge, and we realized that we underinvested in grids, we all underinvested in storage, and we want to stimulate investments in renewable technologies, but we have also to deal with the intermittency of those technologies. So, consolidating and integrating our markets is also very important to tackle, beyond the traditional story of Morocco having that exceptional wind and solar resources. I think what is more important is the amount of investments that we are bringing into the grids, into connecting, for example, the southern part of the country to the northern part of the country, and then to the 1,500 megawatts of electricity connections that we have with Spain. we already have 700 megawatts, 1,400 megawatts already there, and we want to add the third line. A connection that I'm signing the feasibility study today with Portugal, and then additional connections, electricity connections coming hopefully in the future with the European Union. We don't do that just to build cables. We do that because I think, and I like to think, that on both sides of the Mediterranean Sea, we have political leaders who go beyond political mandates and have a long-term vision, because, mind you, to build transcontinental gas pipelines or hydrogen pipelines or electricity interconnections, you need to have at least 10 years ahead of you to be able to finance them, so that the EBRD and others provide us with the guarantees to finance those projects. These types of projects are also very important because they provide for the financial community stable rates of return, stable dividends. So in theory, if the politicians are able to get their acts together over time for minimum of 3 to 5 years, we should be able to decrease the costs of financing as well, because that's the key, one of the key parts of the issue. The second point, and I'll finish on that, clean tech. If you look at our CapEx plan in the energy transition space in Morocco, I mentioned that we have to increase the annual investments, to multiply the annual investments by 5 in the energy transition space and by 3 in the renewable space, because we want to exceed the current 40% of renewables installed in Morocco to more than 52% before 2030. In our NDC, we are exceeding the 80%. We can do that by continuing to have a small share, less than 0.5%, half a percent of that CapEx going into R&D, into research and development. We need more research and development in batteries, storage, smart grids, systems that would enable us to, again, minimize the costs of green electricity from production, transportation, and distribution. And of course, later on, export to our partners in the European countries. So to do so, we need to carve out also additional investments for the research and development side. And again, I always insist that the research part is also important. It's not only the DE that is important. The research is definitely important to deploy and test technologies that will enable us so that, and there's no one better than the private sector to help us take those technology risks. And we don't want taxpayer money to bear those risks anymore. The European Union has provided tremendous subsidies for the development of renewable projects in the past. Morocco has also subsidized, with the help of its international partners, CSP technologies. I think between now and 2030, we can do better in crafting programs, potentially master plans, to decrease the cost of financing and ultimately the cost of energy for our taxpayers. Thank you very much.
Dear Minister, dear Executive Vice President, thank you very much for those very inspirational speeches and for setting out this long-term perspective, very convergent, which inspires in the Director Generals who, unlike our Vice President says, simply follow the political guidance and are great implementers. So we are inspired by what you say. I know that I also speak on behalf of DITA. And I would like to thank you so much for attending this session and giving us such a powerful message. With that, can we have a round of applause before they leave?